Welcome to the Leverton on Everything podcast. I'm Leverton, and this is Everything, a daily podcast where I review everything in literally everything in under 10 minutes, because sometimes it's not literally under 10 minutes, sometimes it's longer. So today I'm going to be reviewing a true crime documentary called Killing Country. I gave it 4 out of 10 stars, and my title ignores the elephant in the room. This series starts as a typical true crime documentary in which there's loving interviews of the families who have lost a loved one due to crime. But in most of these documentaries, the person that they are talking about um, is the victim of the crime. And this one, the person that they're talking about, at least initially according to the police, was the criminal. This series then goes on to explore, if not the corruption of a local police force, certainly the incompetence of it. In fact, this small community had the highest per capita rate of citizens being killed by the police in all the country. It's an important issue, but I feel the documentary doesn't do it justice. I think generally American true crime documentaries are in a blind spot when it comes to crime. What I mean by that is the topic of guns is not touched upon at all. The police could certainly be trained more and better. I think that it is ridiculous that a police officer can be trained in the United States in a period of 4 to 5 weeks, whereas in other countries it's an actual college program of 4 to 5 years. While that certainly causes the clearance rate for murder cases to be uh, below 50% in the United States, it also causes a myriad of other problems. But it's not the reason there are so many murders in America. The reason is that there are 3 guns for every person in the United States. And there are like 350 million people in the United States, something like that. Almost half a billion. If there's a crime in Canada or Mexico that involves a gun, it's most likely that that gun was smuggled from the United States. People in the United States take guns to church, to grocery shopping, and remarkably, there are even rules in the United States saying that you can take an unloaded gun on a plane. The problem is the cult of the gun, and any attempt to regulate this horrific situation is met with cries like, "They're taking away your freedom! They want to impose tyranny upon the United States!" But the objective fact is that there are countries with a great amount of freedom that have gun control measures. In fact, regulation of firearms is one way to guarantee that freedom. Because if you do not have to be scared of being shot in school, the grocery store, in a church, or on a plane, you have a much greater level of freedom. Unfortunately, I think American culture now equates freedom with anarchy. Anarchy not in the philosophical or political theory sense, but in the actual literal sense, meaning an absence of laws. Regulations that are fair, applied to everyone equally, those are the things that guarantee freedom. Just ask yourself, would you rather live in Switzerland or Somalia? Um, just to pick 2 countries where there are rules and regulations. I also picked, and lack of regulations in case of Somalia. I also picked Switzerland because they do have a well regulated militia, which is the whole point of having firearms, right? It's every American citizen has the right to bear arms as part of a militia, not by going to church, not by taking your gun on the plane. It's kind of ridiculous. And then Americans, because they don't bother to find out about the rest of the world. So some Americans will get on the plane and have bullets in their bags, and then they'll go to little islands in the Caribbean and they'll get arrested and thrown in prison for years because of the bullets or the gun that they had, and they were like, "Oh well, it's legal in America, so it should be legal everywhere else." Like, oh, come on. Yeah, anyway, my point is that a lot of these, it's interesting actually, psychologically, maybe more culturally than psychologically, because these true crime dramas, they never talk about the topic of guns. It's like a taboo topic. They talk about police incompetence, like in this one, or the fact that there's like a troubled teen industry and people are exploiting your children for financial gain. They talk about those things. They don't have any problem going after those things, but going after like guns and the firearm industry, no. Like they'll go after 4chan, whatever, but like guns, no, not going to talk about it. Which is weird because it's not a radical, like, I think there are a lot of people who own guns who would wish that the regulations would make sense and that there would be regulations so that responsible gun owners wouldn't be, blamed for everything that happens in the United States. That's the thing. There's like a lack of gun regulations that make sense. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling, but I do believe it's true. All right, one thing that doesn't involve guns usually is my other podcast called Death by Disney, where I review Disney movies in a chronological order. So check it out. Bye bye.